Good afternoon. Welcome to today's panel, which is Storytelling Innovations and Hybrid Experiences in the Digital Age. This panel is an initiative supported by the Government of Quebec, and it is presented by Sodec in collaboration with MUTEK. My name is Sarah Spring. I'll be your moderator today. I'm really pleased to be joined by such an incredibly interesting group of people who are doing really fascinating innovations with storytelling, and they're each in different and unique ways. So I'm joined today by Olivier Girard, a composer, artist, and sound designer, and the artist responsible for creating the loops that we'll speak about in a few minutes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Kirsten Rabe, the editorial director at Mixed Vision. Welcome, Kirsten.
Thank you.
Antoine Tanguay, the publisher at Éditions Alto. Welcome, Antoine. Virtually as I am. And Frédéric Gauthier, the publisher at La Pastèque. Welcome, Frédéric.
Merci.
I'm sad that I'm not there with all of you, but I'm really happy to be here for this conversation. And I wonder if we can just start with each of you taking a moment to introduce yourself and a little bit about your work. We'll start with Olivier.
Well, hello, I'm Olivier Giroir. I'm a composer, a sound artist, and designer from Montreal. Create mostly work for dance, theater, and then public space for the last 10 years, I would say.
Thank you very much. Kirsten, can you please speak a little bit about your work?
Of course. Hi, I'm Kerstin Rabe. I'm editorial director at Mixed Vision Publishing. I'm responsible for the international market there. I acquire rights, I edit books, and I also work on our cross-media projects.
Thank you. Antoine, next at Éditions Alto.
Hi there. So yeah, president and founder and publisher at Éditions Alto for about 16 years now. We do publish fiction from Quebec, from Canada, and from abroad. But most recently, we opened kind of a little lab, which is called Alia, which focuses on innovative storytelling.
Thank you very much. And Frédéric at La Pastèque.
Yes, hi, Frédéric Gauthier, co-founder of La Pastèque, publishing house based in Montreal for the past 23 years. Mainly graphic novels we do publish, and then we do also picture books and nonfiction books for kids. And also, since a few years back, we also do some interactive creation inspired by our authors and illustrators.
Okay, great. Thank you. And before we get into the conversation with the entire panel, I'll just take a minute to talk about the loops, which was it's a really wonderful innovation that we have coming out of Quebec being presented at Frankfurt this year. So the loops are illustrations inspired by Quebec literature. It's an initiative supported by the Government of Quebec, and it was designed to showcase Quebec at the Frankfurt Book Fair, where Canada is a guest of honor, of course. The loops are presented in Frankfurt in collaboration with Node, the Forum for Digital Arts. And in case you haven't had a chance to experience them yet, the loops are an interactive work that plays short flipbook style movies inspired by Quebec literature, translated into German. So it takes an old school 19th century technology of the zoetrope, music box, and handcart and fuses them together into a kind of retro futuristic motion picture machine. So that's quite a mouthful, but I wonder if Olivier, Antoine, and Frédéric, maybe you could just speak a little bit about the ways that you've been working with the loops over the last 2 years now. I'll start with you, Olivier, as the artistic motor behind the project.
Thank you, Sarah. I can actually explain how the loop started and why we're here today. So the loop started 5 years ago. Every year in Montreal, there's a contest. It's called Luminothérapie. So we're in the winter. It's cold. There's nothing happening downtown Montreal during the winter because it's empty, people wants to stay home. Our goal with the loop was actually to bring people out, experience art in a different way, and get warmer. So we needed something that is active, something that will bring people out, something joyful as well. So we started with the sorry, we started with the project at the beginning with the background of fairy tales. So we had the first version of the loop with the Three Little Pigs and the tale of Alice au Pays des Merveilles, so Alice in Wonderland, and then. 2 years ago, we were invited because Canada is part of the book fair this year, and we were invited to present the Quebec literature inside our loop. So we changed the context. We asked 12 illustrators to represent in one image the one author from different backgrounds. So we have theater, poetry, children's book, about like a good portrait of the Quebec literature. And with that image, my friends from Autoblix in Montreal used the image to create an animation that we cut in 24 frames. And those frames are printed inside those big wheels of 2 meters diameters. And people have to activate the machine so the wheel turns. And while it turns, it creates some flip animation with those images. So we work with La Pastèque. The book is called I don't want to in English, I don't know. It's Le Facteur de l'Espace, so it's the postman from space.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frédéric. And Édition Alto. We also represent. Which one was the Édition Alto? I can't hear you. Anyway.
Berthe?
Ah oui, it's a Nicolas Dickner book. It's called 6 degrés de liberté, so 6 degrees of liberty. It's a story about a container and children working with internet. So the main character is a container, so we had to find a way to represent that in one image and then animate that image. The postman from space was also fun to illustrate because it's this postman that goes from one planet to the other and find like many adventures. So it was interesting to represent in one loop in a short sequence, a sequence of 4 seconds, I would say. So when we say literature representing literature, it's very short. We had to find something that struck the mind right away. And actually, that's what we did in the loop that you can see now in Frankfurt at Rautenau-Platz.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Olivier. They're really they're very quick experiences, but they really unlock the imagination, I find. And we also have some of our most celebrated Quebec authors represented there, some of whom are being honored at Frankfurt this year. So they're really worth exploring if you have a chance, especially at nighttime, because there's lights and music, and it's a really nice experience to do. And just to jump into the discussion here, maybe I'll start with you, Kirsten. But just to keep going with this conversation about having an interactive experience from a book. But maybe you can talk a little bit about your project, The Juggler's Tale, which is kind of going in the opposite direction from a project like The Loops or some of the other publishers who are going from a book to an interactive work. So maybe you could just explore a little bit about that project with us.
Sure, I'd love to. So A Juggler's Tale is a game that, maybe I should start at Mixed Vision Company. We are made up of 3 parts. So we are a book publisher, we are a games publisher, and also film production company. So organically, we take stories and create different media from the stories. So A Juggler's Tale was pitched by our games colleagues. It is a game for Steam, for Nintendo Switch, for Xbox and PlayStation that was just released a few weeks ago. And we, in the book publishing department, really fell in love with the artwork at first. And then we talked more with our colleagues and started to think maybe this could be a product that we could do in our book publishing. So we took the core of the game, which has a totally different age group than our books, because it's targeted at not at children and young adults that we publish books for, but it's targeted at older gamers. So it was a challenge to take the core of the story, which is about a puppet on strings, a little girl called Abby, which you can see here on the screen. And it's a story about empowerment and resilience, because she escapes from a circus where she's held captive, and she tries to free herself from her strings. And to turn this beautiful story and this wonderful artwork into a book, we thought, what can we do? We talked about doing a graphic novel, maybe with the pictures and the story for older readers. But then in the end, we decided to do a picture book for really young children. So we had to translate the story somehow into working for younger readers, which was not that easy, because it's quite a dark story, and it's also in a medieval setting, so we had to take care that it's not too dark, not too scary for young children. And that's a current project we're working on, and it's quite interesting to see how a digital game, which is quite, has another audience or another target group, can be taken and put into a very classic medium like the book.
Mm-hmm. And so what age group did you land on? What's the range that's going to experience this?
I would say classic picture book age, 3+, but of course working for all ages. We're not especially targeting the book at the players who have the game, but also as a standalone for people who find the artwork as beautiful as we do and like the story, because I think it's quite universal, and I think it can work for younger children as well.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. So it's added value for the people that are already experiencing the original production format of it.
Yeah, I think so.
As well. Yeah, that's great. And Antoine and Frédéric, your projects are quite different, but one thing they're both doing are inviting users and readers to choose how their stories are evolving in different ways. And I wonder if both of you can just speak about how, coming from traditional publishing, why you've chosen to explore audience-led storytelling. And I'll start with you, Frédéric. You could speak a little bit about your work.
Yeah, the project we're focusing on today it's a podcast. It's an interactive podcast called Trois fois Alice, 3 times Alice, inspired by Alice in Wonderland. And the idea behind the project was to showcase to the younger public how our creators are doing their books, or they end up writing them, the ideas that inspire them, and how they collaborate between writers and illustrators, and how the illustrators can approach the work of showcasing a text in a way. Because when we go to fair, to salon, book fairs, we meet readers, and they are avid, especially younger readers, they're avid to know how these writers end up doing their books and how we do produce them. So the idea was to propose to a writer to do a creation for the podcast. So we approached Patrick Isabelle, whom we wanted to work with for a long time, and he was very, afraid of that project, because he had never done anything like this. So it's a live kind of stream of his mindset in a way, and so the readers or the people listening to the podcast were able to vote on the 3 ideas he had to start the project, and then he had to write the one idea that was voted for by the readers. And then same happened with the illustration. As Audrey Malo, the illustrator, she proposed 3 character design, and then again there was a vote online, and she ended up illustrating the style that was chosen by the people listening to the podcast. So it's a very back and forth process. It's very inspiring, and also what's very important for us is that it's a creation. It's not an adaptation of an existing project, and also we tend to use the the occasion or the excuse to have a new interactive digital project to approach or to work with people we want to work for a long time, but was not happening in our traditional book publishing projects. But they are very excited to try something new again with us, and it's there's no net. We try things that we have never done before, so it's very exciting. And the project will be ending in November with the last episode of the podcast, and also we will reveal the end creation digitally also in November.
It's really interesting. It was a co-creation with a public that the artists have never met.
Exactly.
And you're kind of facilitating this, and I mean, they really have to be willing to take the lead from people. It's quite audacious for artists to actually just be open to being led in that way by people that they have never worked with before, and they'll never work with again. It's kind of anonymous curation in a way.
Exactly, and it's very stressful. I know Patrick, the writer, was he had nightmares, didn't sleep well for a few days, but it's just like an adventure in a way for us, for publishers, and also for the creators, and it's a good back and forth process. I know it's a learning curve for us also, and we'll be using the tools and the cues we're getting from this project to apply to the more traditional projects, but we want to do more interactive projects for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting way to be sure that you're creating something that there's a real appetite for, because a publisher doesn't necessarily do a survey or a sondage before they put something out. You have a sense of what your audience wants, you put it out. This way, you're kind of inputting something into the world that that there's an appetite for.
Yes, but at the same time, we need to reach this audience, and it's not easy. But we've been doing podcasts for a few years, and the knowledge also that the La Pastèque book we have a good reach, and so it's fun to reach new people, new readers also, and to try something different.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of something different, Antoine, you also have your project touches on this choose your own adventure concept, but in different ways. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, please.
Sure. Thank you, Sarah. I'll just get back before that. I'll get back on some of the things that Frédéric has said. 2 words. One of them is really important. We're learning. And we got to be humble as publishers, as traditional publishers. We really got to be humble when we look at what other industries, like the gaming industry, has done over the years. And we're just beginning to connect with other creators, such as Olivier and all these people, to finally expand our world, which has been, again, traditionally pretty, I would say, not risk takers. So that wouldn't be us. But as a publisher, the reason why I started this innovative R&D department is mainly because I've always said, if there's a market for books that are made out of Morse code and smoke signals, for example, well, my job is to do that. So that's the main thing. So getting to the project of Clairvoyant, it originated from a discussion with Audrey Wilhelmy, who was fascinated by tarots and oracles. So there's a slight difference here. Tarot has strict figures. Oracles are meant to be interpreted from your own view. So what we have in Clairvoyance is, she told me, I'd love to do a literary oracle where we would have writers write different scenes, like one character, one scenery, and one object. So now all you have to do is you just lift those 3 cards, and of course, randomly you'll get different pieces of stories. They won't be straightforward stories. The format is about 500 words, and that's it. So there's a little book that comes with the cards. So you take those cards, and then you read them. That makes kind of a little path to understanding better the questions you've asked to the oracle before. So there are 2 ways to see clairvoyance. One of them is literary experience, because behind all this, and actually not behind, but right in front of people, is 15 women writers, really great writers. Like, we've got la crème de la crème. There's an expression that I don't know if I can translate for cream of the
The
cream,
best
but
of the best.
I mean, we got the best of the best, and they're wonderful writers. I mean, the style is amazing, and so we just got all the text just recently this week. So it's really, I would say, it's impressive in a way to see all those different visions to work together. So as far as literally, as a literary, as a projet littéraire, I would say in French, as a writing
Literary work.
project, it is. Thank you. It is exciting, and as an object, I hope it will bring people to play the game and read wonderful writers. But that's the first part. The second part, which is more interesting, is to put out there. We just got a grant from Sodec to, yes, make the book. That's one thing, but then let's make it happen on the web. So that's going to be accessible. A few of the cards will be accessible on web, so everyone can try the game. If they want to have the full experience, it'll be just a little bit of money, but not really much. And then afterwards, what's even better is we can go in book fairs. We're going to have a little booth where you just sit there in the dark. There's going to be music, get you in the mood, and then we'll pick those cards for you. So we've got book fairs, and we've got digital experience. So the way we've structured that can go back to what Frédéric said, which is reaching people, and that's the most challenging part.
There's such a nice collaborative spirit to all of these projects, though, just in terms of working together with the creative community to find new ways to tell stories. So people Antoine in the project Clairvoyant, so they're doing tarot card readings, and every card is leading them down a different narrative path created by a different Canadian writer.
Exactly. The challenge, of course, being that you've got 15 writers working, as we all are in the last 2 years, apart from each other. So we didn't do that as a group. And they only get directions, like those instructions were given to them by Audrey. And so from there, they did their own thing. So it won't be really a straightforward story, because we can't do that. And that would be just a little bit too much. So an oracle is about interpretation. So you will get surprises every time you pick your deck. And I mean, tarot and oracles are so popular these days. I said, why not make a book out of it? And that's basically what I said to Audrey. Everything is a book. Everything is a fiction. We're not limited, like I said earlier, we're not limited to the medium. If we can make books, see, I've been working recently with these books, like the Escape book, for example, and this is not a setup, they're all behind me. Those are all books that are pretty, no, because they were actually on the table before we began to see. The Pickle Index, for example, by Eli Horowitz, is a book, but it's also an app. So, I mean, they're out there. The only challenge is to get people to know them. That's the whole thing.
Right. And speaking of challenges, because obviously you're creating these beautiful works of art, but you're also running companies. You're in the business of creating content, and needs to be sustainable, of course. So I wonder if you could touch briefly on how does this new wave creative content fit within your plans for sustainability or monetization of the company as the industry changes? Are these fitting into where you see the future of the sustainable publishing industry for your specific organizations? Maybe I'll start with you, Kristen.
I think for us it is very important to branch out into newer media, because that's the reality. I think people are getting more and more into digital content. But for us as a company, it has historically and organically always been like that. So we have started as an interactive company. We have always done books and apps and TV shows and all kinds of media. So I think for us, it is more, we have found that more successful products can be branched out into, for example, a very successful book can be turned into an app or a game, or a successful game into also an app or a book, there has to be a certain brand so you can monetize it. It's not always easy. It doesn't always work as they are supposed to be working. And we have had our hits and misses. But I think if you realize that the traditional medium, the book, is not dead, but people are still, they still want also games, and you can't really say no to these types of media. So you have to be innovative and also find different outlets for your stories. So we take a story and we try to find the best medium for it. And we as a company have the advantage that we have those 3 business areas anyway. So we can always talk to our colleagues from the games department, for example, and say, what's working for you and what do you think could be turned into a book, or the other way around. And that's a very great position to be in. And I think that's working quite well like that.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Frédéric, for La Pastèque? What would you say, what is the place that interactive work has started to take? I mean, you've been doing this work for many years already. Is it starting to become half of the new developments that you're doing at La Pastèque? When you look forward, is this really the path to reach new audiences, or are you still going to have the base of La Pastèque be printed, published work?
I think the base will be, the foundation of La Pastèque for the at least 10, 15 years for sure. But we've been trying a bit like Mixed Vision. It's a good example. I mean, we just created a production company 3 years ago. We are developing animation series, and a bit like what Antoine touched earlier is that for the longest time the book world has been working in silos, and other industries like music and they were collaborating in all these interactive or creations, and then we need to get out and reach and go meet these people and try stuff. And we're pretty lucky in Canada to have funding to do experimental digital work right now. So we have the luxury to try these things, even though there's no market for now yet. So we're developing, trying stuff, making it's in misses as well, but it's a very cool learning experience, and also it's exciting for our creators, which for us at La Pastèque, they are we exist because of them, so it's fun to propose to them new stuff, and it's a cool working experience in between us. So when we did Tout Garni, which was a very large experimental interactive project we did a few years ago, we tried numerous media. We tried interactive projection. We tried a lot of in situ interactive situation, and out of that project, we hope in the near future to create a project that can be shown in museum and arts and interactive places around the world. So from that experimental project might end up with a financially sustainable project that might tour the world. So that's our vision. I mean, we need a few years again to try stuff, and the media and interactivity, a bit like Loop, is changing, evolving rapidly. So we need to be aware and to be out there and to be players in that field.
Mm-hmm. We're very lucky in Quebec to have Sodec that provides the cultural industries space to experiment and develop, so that when that market does become, when that appetite grows, our creators are ready to step into this space. And what about you, Antoine? Because you're creating, you're publishing novels, mostly, really important literary works in Quebec, doing translations. When you look at the future of les éditions Alto, are you also thinking that production wing, interactive space is going to start taking up more and more of what you're doing at the publishing house?
Well, we got this joke at the office, which is Alia, our R&D department, is where we lose money, and it's basically true because and as you said, we're really lucky to have a government that gives us a chance to risk things. Recently, for the evaporated, for which is the biggest thing we're working on, we got la Sodec, but it was a step for us to reach the Canadian Media Fund, which we never work with. La Pastèque, I think, is the first publisher to work with the Canadian Media Fund. So we're like venturing into the unknown, and that's what's exciting. And Alto has always been a kind of a curious publishing house, trying new things, trying to surprise people, and that's at the core of what a publisher is. I mean, the publishing industry is set mostly in two time frame. One of them is the fall season. The other one is the spring season. So we got all these traditions, and you got 6 months to surprise people and to sell a book. If you don't, well, it's basically forgotten. When you have digital experiences, websites, things that have a wider and a longer life, I think it's really exciting to, and as Frédéric also said, it's a challenge to work with authors. For them, it's exciting, and for us, it's like I said, we're in Star Trek right now. We're venturing into the unknown, and we're having fun doing so. So yeah, it keeps the flame going. So it organically it fits into what we're looking at, and I think there'll be more and more publishers going the same way.
And speaking of venturing into the unknown, I wonder if briefly you could each just tell me, now that you've been doing interactive, exploratory, collaborative work, you're stepping into the space more and more, just thinking about pie in the sky, if you could make any interactive project, what's your dream project that you would do? If money was no object, no barrier. And I'll start with you, Olivier. In stepping into this world where you're playing with literature, what would you create if there were no boundaries?
Yeah, that's a big question. I don't
And you
know.
have
I
2
have
minutes.
so many things to say. I was listening to everyone, and the first thing that struck me in what they said, and I want to come back a little about what we were just discussing before, and then tell you what's my big project. I think it's interesting that publishing is very traditionally a fixed media. Like the book, once it's printed, it's out. You can't touch it anymore. And with interactive work, we bring the experience, not just it's not the author that is giving an experience, but it's actually the public that is getting that experience. The focus changed, and that's. In music, I'm from a music background, and it's the same. Like once you publish a disc, it's over. You can't go back. But we never did, with Ecumen, my company, we never did those kind of projects. We always wanted to create projects in a specific place where people need to go and experience themselves that place. And that's exactly what we do with the loop. You have to activate the mechanism yourself so you can see what's happening. Now, if I had a big project in mind, we have a few right now. I always think about how we live together and what's important right now, like about relationships, about environment. And one of the big projects we have in mind right now is we are working with the Canadian Space Agency, and we want to send things in space. But that's just a small project.
Just call Elon Musk. I'm sure he'll do it.
maybe. So we want to send balloons in the space and then put some light projections on it and stuff like that. So maybe one day you'll see that. We'll see.
Wow, that sounds really exciting. What about you, Kristen? What's your pie in the sky project if you could do anything right now when you look into the future?
I think hearing that, I'll join Olivier and go to space, send some of my books with him. I think if I had the chance, or if we as a company had the chance to take a really, really good story and do everything with that story that we could possibly think of. So as an experiment, really do a book, a movie, a TV show, a game, a board game, everything that we could think of, and just have the luxury to try out what works best at the moment. What do people want? what is the target group for each of those different media, and just do an experiment to have the same story in different outlets. And that would be a really, really interesting experiment, I think.
And then to speak to the different audiences about what they think the story is would also be really
Yes, to have it like a fluid
fascinating.
project that you could take the feedback from the audience and incorporate it into the products. Would be a bit difficult in a book, but for the digital products it could work to have a fluid story.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing opportunity to be able to actually create work and think about how people are receiving it as you're continuing in that act of creation, because publishing a book is so finite. Okay, moving on to you, Frédéric. What is something that you've been kind of thinking about that you'd love to make if you had the opportunity?
I mentioned it earlier, but it would be to maybe not work again inspired by To Garni, the project, but to create an interactive touring exhibition in everywhere on the planet. That would be very nice, because it's when you get to work on these installations, you can experiment with interaction, you can experiment with projection, with movie, with games and stuff. So that's all little elements we worked on a few years back, but we would like to expand it to a larger experience, and also to keep pushing our creators to try new stuff. And also maybe it will be linked to the evolution of our production company, and to expand more outside of just smaller web or animated series, and to move to maybe more, let's go, it's pie in the sky, to more main large production movies. So that will be interesting to have the control ourselves, and to give room for the creators to experiment and try new stuff. So that's our main objective, but to expand it into a large experience that would tour the world, that would be great.
Okay, great. Well, you heard it here. You can start investing right away.
Yeah.
Global creative takeover by La Pastèque.
Exactly.
And Antoine, we only have about 6 minutes left. So Antoine, maybe you can speak about where you would take your projects, and then we'll just talk a little bit about the loops at the end. So go ahead, Antoine.
Sure, no problem. Well, you know what, Sarah, my dream project is the one I'm working on right now. It seems funny to say, but the Clairvoyance is one thing that's going to be out there in April 2022. But the Evaporated, which I've been working on for 4 to 5 years, is based on the fact that everything's fiction: artifacts, pictures, LP postcards, Viewmaster slides. I've been working with 50 French and English writers so far, and the basis of the game, because it is a game, is open to a worldwide audience. So the collaboration of everyone, might be from any country in the world, could be taking part in this. So, I mean, you're going to see it probably in October 2022, because finally we'll be able to showcase it. And of course, physically, I'll be in Frankfurt, because it's good to be virtual, but it's not as comfortable. So anyway, that's the dream project, and I think they're very nice years to come for everyone, every one of the publishing, every member of the publishing industry, to finally start working together and change the basis of our industries, and to bring along the authors with us. So yeah, my dream thing is the dream I'm dreaming right now.
Well, that's a great thing to hear. And I think it sounds like also the dream is collaborating with multiple writers on works that are co-created. So I think that's sort of one thing that is a bit of a through line through all the different projects is what's really fun and really creative is to bring all of these people together and see where the collective imagination can take us. And that's sort of where the future is in terms of interactive publishing.
Totally.
And I think just before we close, I wonder if you can just take a moment, each of you, and just let the audience know if they want to follow what you're doing, what's the best way to keep up to date on all of the innovative things that you're doing at your respective companies? And I'll start with Antoine if you want to go first.
Don't look at my website right now. We're redesigning it, and there's going to be a place especially for that. That's the thing with websites; they take a long time to build. Yeah, Edition Alto, just go out there. We're going to have a newsletter that will keep people posted on our projects because all of them are both in French and English. So that gives us a chance to collaborate with people internationally, and we'll be in Frankfurt next year with our Alia hats and our Alto hats, so traditional and Dreamscape hat. Yeah, just reach us, give us a call, send us an email. I've always opened myself to surprises, so I don't know what's going to come up next. I said it's Star Trek out there.
How about you, Frédéric? Where should people keep up to date with La Pastèque?
They can look up on our social medias and our website. Everything is updated, and they can follow up-to-date projects also, and so that's the best way to reach us, to follow our different projects. Sometimes we have specific websites for specific projects, but they're all centered and based on our social media and our main website.
Okay. And how about you, Kirsten? What about Mixed Vision? Where can people get the latest info on what you're working on?
Follow us on social media at Mixed Vision, especially on Instagram and TikTok. We do a lot of behind the scenes and making of, and a lot of fun content. We also have a newsletter, and you can find us here in Hall 3 at D66 if you want to come by and have a look at our books. We would love to welcome you there, and yeah, hope to see you.
Great. And what about you, Olivier?
For us, we just made a new website for the loop, so it's on our website with ecumen.com. And the best way is actually to go and experience the loop here in Frankfurt. There's 11 of them at the Rautenauerplatz, and one of them is right here at the Agora. So if you haven't been, it's the right moment. Sarah, it's a bit far for you, I know, but you've seen them in Montreal already, I think.
Yeah, I did. I'm so grateful that I got to experience them in Montreal. They're really fun to play with and experience. So the 12 literary works that are presented at the Loops are also at the, I'm going to try my best to pronounce this, the Hugendubel bookstore in Frankfurt. Kirsten, I don't know how I did that.
You did great.
And you can discover, so you can discover more Quebec books that are available in German at www.quebec.ca/Berlin. And the Loops were a production of the Quartier des Spectacles in partnership with Ecumen and, of course, La Sodec. So we're so grateful to have had the chance to speak about these interesting projects. Sodec has been working tirelessly for years to elevate Quebec creators here at Frankfurt. So thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to everyone. And I'm sorry I'm not there, but maybe next year.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next year. Thank you.